We'd like to begin this podcast by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome back, Mel. It's episode number 32 of Talking Couch Potatoes.
Hi, Matthew.
And it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It is, isn't it?
Should we do the song?
No, I tried that before.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Yes,
beautiful.
It is.
32, episode 32.
Yep.
Guess what, though?
What's,
Mel?
have we got another country?
We've got another country.
Oh, really? Who's the next?
Have a guess who it is.
Oh, I
Guess who do you wish it was?
Greenland.
Yeah,
it's not them, is it?
we want Greenland. We've got a listener or two in El Salvador.
Wow.
I believe it's in Central America.
Yeah.
And did you know, Mel, that the capital of El Salvador is San Salvador? And in this time of Christmas, they're a very Christian nation.
Yes.
San Salvador means Holy Saviour,
Wow.
which is a Spanish term for Jesus.
Jesus.
So I want to take this opportunity as we approach Christmas to say happy birthday, Jesus.
Yeah. I'll
Happy
just say happy holidays, everybody. Because it depends which book you read. And we don't all sing to the same book.
Well,
or
also, how about this for the Muslim community? Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
For our Hindu community, Astunkara. Anyway, happy birthday, Jesus.
Happy holidays is, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. What else is going on, Mel? Anything interesting happening?
I'm going to be looking forward to a nice little break, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in our world, though, we had the send-off for Lisa Baker, which was nice to see everybody. Wish her well. A lot of supporters. She's a good human.
She's a great human.
Very many levels.
We had a chat to Lisa
right.
not long ago, didn't we, Mel? It was episode 30. She's extraordinary.
Very interesting person, and hopefully we'll go now from strength to strength doing what she likes to do on a personal level, more so with alternative proteins, animal welfare issues, that sort of thing. We also had the vigil in Cannington on the 8th of December because it's the celebration of 50 years of greyhound abuse in Australia, in Western Australia, sorry. So they were doing the box draw for that at Cannington. And so some of our followers and supporters came and we just had a moment in Francis Bird Park and just, thought about the greyhounds that sadly so many in the last 50 years that have died.
Well, we know, Mel, from 2015 to today, at least 1,500
That's right.
beautiful creatures have perished, so that a few people can chuck a punt on or turn these creatures into commodities.
Absolutely.
What else, Mel?
We have our first event, if you like, for 2025. I can't believe I'm saying that number.
Have we got one already? When do you rest, mate? I thought you were supposed to be...
No. The vegan bake sale at Earthwise will be on the 25th of January. So that's a really lovely event to support. And one of the guests that we're speaking to on our next episode is actually helping us with that. Yeah, so if you want to get along and buy some vegan goodies on the 25th of January at Earthwise in Subiaco, we will be there.
Can I talk about the guest for next week, or should we just make it a surprise?
Make it a surprise.
Yeah, fair enough. I can talk about the guest from last week, who was awesome. Christy from Animal Liberation Tasmania. Wasn't she just...
Yeah.
Can I call her a great chick? Is that... Or is that allowed?
She'll be fine.
Yeah?
Yes.
You're a great chick, Christy.
You are. Doing some really good stuff in Tasmania.
If you haven't listened to it, frankly, I'm disappointed. Listeners, go and listen to it.
Absolutely. And the Bad Apple Report, have a look at that and the hideous things that are going on in Tasmania.
I know something else, Mel, that you did recently was the tin shake.
Oh, yeah.
We did talk about it, but we haven't. You said the numbers hadn't come in.
That's right.
They have come in.
They have.
And it's extraordinary.
No, it was really, I tell you what, it puts your faith back in humanity. And for me personally, the number of young gentlemen that were happy to donate, young guys, 25-year-olds, $50, here you go. I don't believe that we should be betting on this. And my girlfriend and I have got one, or my good friend's got a greyhound. I think the next generation is just going to go, you know what, this is one particular thing that we're just not going to put up with.
I think the current generation doesn't even know that it's going on. I think that's when they get really surprised. I've heard so many times, really? They're still doing greyhound racing?
Absolutely. That still came up. But we ended up raising $3,700 for our...
In one day?
Yes. Oh,
That's
it's 6 hours. Yeah.
6 hours. I thought when you were doing it, I thought, oh, good. Well, a few $100 would be great. Go to the cause.
No,
Nearly 4
$3,700.
grand.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So thank you to the people of Perth.
Anything else going on, Mel, or should we move on?
Let's move on because we've got some really cool guests here today.
We put a shout out a little while ago to say we just want to interview your greyhound supporter on the street, a local advocate, or just someone who has a greyhound and wants to have a chat about him. And then we got some really wonderful replies, and our guests, plural, today. We've got Hope and Owen. What a beautiful name, Owen.
No, it was Hope that we said for today because it was our Christmas.
All right, sorry, I'll do it again.
It was our Christmas theme, Hope. It was such a lovely...
We can't... And we're lucky enough to have both of them here with us today, literally in the studio.
That's right.
They've come in, made an effort, got off their asses, and they're sitting right opposite us now. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello.
And listen to that voice.
Oh, can we
I had
just...
to get in there.
I have
I
to.
knew he
You
was
have
gonna-
to, mate. Now,
Owen's voice is next level.
I'm trying to compete today. I've lowered it by at least 2 octaves, and I'm still not there. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Doing well.
Really excited to be here and talk about one of my favourite things, greyhounds.
Me too. You guys, Hope, you sent us such a beautiful email about Beau's story, and I read through it. It was so lovely. Part of what you wrote was that you particularly wanted to adopt a greyhound, and a part of what you said was you wanted one that wouldn't necessarily get into a good home. And I was really curious about, number one, what sort of made you think greyhound, but also it sounds to me like you specifically wanted something a bit more.
Yeah, so I think I've always loved greyhounds. I love how awkward and yet graceful they are. And I'd wanted one for a while, and I was living in an apartment at the time, and I thought, oh, it's not really fair to stick a dog into an apartment and then let it be, because I think it needs space. Owen and I moved in together a year into our relationship, and I moved into his place, and he had a massive yard. And so I was like, all right, cool, we're ready. We got permission from the landlord. We're like, let's get a dog. And then the more Owen and I spoke about it, the more we kind of, and also did some research as well into adopting greyhounds and the industry and all that kind of stuff. We quickly realized that on Gower's adoption, on their website, under their adoption page, they have the special dog section, I think they call it. And I was looking through there, and I was like, a lot of these dogs sound fine. Not fine, obviously, because they clearly have little quirks, if we want to call them quirks. But Owen and I are both reasonably dog savvy. We've had dogs before. We've grown up around dogs. I think the more we looked at it and seeing the same dogs on the page continuously, we were like, okay, these are the dogs that need some help.
Yeah.
And that's like why we decided to help a dog that needed a little bit more love.
2 things come to mind. One is how lovely it is to have that approach of thinking, okay, these are the beautiful creatures who might be overlooked or might be left behind, and to step into that, to say, we're going to be one of those people who make sure you're not left behind. The other thing you mentioned was about living in an apartment, because we've got a small apartment. We've got 2 greyhounds. And
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
how does that go?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to chat with you about.
Yeah.
As long as you can get out and walk them,
Yeah.
they get walked twice a day. They'll just sleep the rest of the 18 hours.
Knowing what I know now about greyhounds, I probably wouldn't hesitate to have one in an apartment. However, in saying that, we did end up with a very boisterous boy.
Beau, the most beautiful name for a boy, frankly. There's no better name.
He already came with the name, and I've heard of people changing their names once they've adopted, but I was like, Beau's great. Why
Beau.
would we change that?
It's the first 4 letters of beautiful.
And he is a beautiful boy.
Damn
He's
straight.
gorgeous.
Yeah, they all are. What were your first impressions? Oh,
This is an interesting story. I don't know if you want to talk about this, Owen.
I want to hear Owen's voice.
Yeah, exactly.
We went out to meet Beau, and it was just to see him in person and to do a walk. And the plan was
meet and greet kind of vibe.
Yeah, and the plan was like we were going to take things slowly and do that a few times. We went through all the little things that he would be uncomfortable with, and like his interactions that he has on a daily basis. Things like most greyhounds, don't let you near his bed, might growl at you, sort of thing.
So when we first saw Beau on the website, I got in touch with Gower, and Tony called me, and she was like, or I really don't know. Like, this dog does have some issues. We think it's probably best if you do meet and greets and then do a few of those, because he is quite traumatized. So they were really good in like actually going through the process properly and not just lumping us with a dog that we might not be able to handle. Yeah,
so we were taking things slowly, and then the first meeting went pretty well, and then just towards the end, after we finished the walk, he got on his bed, and Hope.
We were doing like little like training tricks with him, because Eve's all about training, obviously. We love Eve. So we were taking him from, she had 2 beds in the living room. So we're like in your bed, like switching beds and giving him treats each time. And when I went to give him a treat one of the times.
Yeah, he snapped and grazed your forehead.
Yeah.
Like with his bite. And then, because everyone like froze and was like, uh-oh, like this is over. That was it. And then they were like, it's okay if you don't want to come back and all this sort of stuff. But
you said it, you're like, oh, it's okay. At least we know what he does.
Yeah.
We know what we're in for.
That's what we can expect.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so then we did quite a few more meet and greets with him, walks. He came to ours for day trips as well, just to get him used to a new environment. And then, then we took him on and took him home.
So what were the things that you were told to watch out for? What was he doing that was seen to be problematic?
He had a lot of fear-based aggression. So his entire mindset was, if I hurt you first, you can't hurt me. He'd been badly beaten by a tall white man, so he was very reserved around Owen, given that he is a long-nooded boy himself. So he was just a lot of fear mainly, and he would just lash out as soon as he got scared. And just the normal greyhound quirks have been quite territorial, resource guarding, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So there was no kind of warning. It was just pretty much.
He gave lots of warnings, but it was early on very inconsistent, because that's obviously just the fear playing on his brain.
Right,
yeah. But I will say that Eve saw a lot of progress with him in the 3 months that they fostered him.
Yeah, he was on a lot of medication.
Yeah, he was on a lot of medications.
Wow.
They weaned him off that, and they saw a lot of progress with him within the 3 months. So we were like, okay, if we can persist, we will see progress ourselves.
So big shout out to Eve, who
Massive shout out to Eve.
a very strong friend of Free the Hounds and a strong friend of the podcast as well. And how's the journey been since then? What are the key points of how that journey with Beau went?
I'm not going to lie, it was pretty rough to start with.
It's probably the hardest thing we've ever done.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, interesting you say that, Owen, because it's, and I'm sorry to sort of interrupt, but there was a section there about the being quite badly beaten and about that idea of I'll hurt you before you hurt me. I've mentioned a couple of times I work in the mental health field with adolescents, and it resonated really strongly with me that actually there's a deep desire within these, or a deep capacity at least, for love and connection. But because they're primary attachment relationships, they're primed to go, I will reject you, or I'll hurt you, or I'll keep you, just to keep you at a safe distance from me. So I imagine that process of having to, together as parents in a sense, or as new attachment figures, must have been a challenge for both of you.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. Owen and I don't really argue, but
We
had some arguments.
Right. Right.
I think we just had both very different ideas of how to approach the situation. And I think in the end, Beau ended up teaching us what worked best for him. And so that we just ended up not necessarily following his lead, but following what was working with him. And it ended up being a bit of a blend of what we both thought.
Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
And reading his responses and adjusting.
Yeah.
Constantly changing.
Yeah.
And he would change as well. So
there was this deep capacity for him. He just wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he wanted. He wants to be cuddled. He wants to be loved, but he just couldn't get out of this like fight mindset. Fight or flight.
It's protective, isn't
but
it?
his was always fight, and he was always ready to go.
Yeah.
But he would just have these moments where he would relax, and you would see that all he wanted was to be loved.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that was really important to us and kept us going, because we could see those moments.
And it fills your cup a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This
there's
has
hope.
been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done.
Wow. And did it end up, it might be a bit cliched to ask, but it did bring you guys closer together in terms of realising.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
I think anything hard that you do together usually brings you closer together.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
But it was a bit of a roller coaster for the first few months. That's probably 6 months, I'd say. We would continue to see small changes in him on a regular basis. So it was enough for us to keep going, and seeing those changes in him was incredible. But we would have full Mexican standoffs with him in the living room with him, hackles up, growling, like snarling at us.
And he'd be inadvertently like blocking us from getting away from him or getting to the bathroom or something, and we couldn't go about our day because we have this dog growling and barking at us and not understanding what's going on.
That's actually one of the bits that I was going to ask you about that stood out from my story that I read, because with Bunny, we have to get her with a treat. That's the only way sometimes. If I need her off the bed or I need her off my chair, or I've got to get a treat. So when I read that Mexican standoff thing lately, I'm starting to notice that she's looking at me like, what if I don't? What if I don't? And it's getting like longer, and I'm going, no, snack. And she's going, what if I just stay here? And I imagined that Mexican standoff, was there a snack situation you could use, or was it just like, no, he's so...
Yeah, he'd be way too on edge to cooperate at all. It was like, don't come near me, I will hurt you. So I think it's mostly just a time thing. There's only so much training I feel like you can do with any person or animal without trust, and you have to just spend time to get that trust. Yeah, and I think really the first 6 months was just building trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which must have been
being consistent.
That's a lot of work, though. That's a lot of work when you have an animal that can snap.
Yeah, but really early on, I can't remember what. I think he'd trapped you in the bathroom or something, and he was barking at you.
He had trapped our housemate.
He trapped a housemate in the bathroom.
And we were both at work, and I had to run home.
Yeah, so there
was... She was...
And that wasn't the only situation where he had done something like that.
There was a couple of times where he trapped people. I think he trapped me once. Yeah,
so at some point, I just resorted to, okay, I'm just going to have to move him out of the situation because this isn't going to improve if he's going to remain locked. And so I just had to, not roughly or anything, but just grab him and slowly move him.
Basically, it's a restraint in a sense.
Absolutely. But Beau's interesting response to that was he would just freeze.
You wouldn't freeze. He would quake and shake and just
and
collapse.
he would turn into an absolute mess. His aggression only lasted to a certain point, essentially, and then he would just turn into this absolute quivering mess of a dog who couldn't function.
Which tells you again that this isn't actually coming from a place of aggression.
Exactly.
This isn't coming from a place of dominance. This is coming from, I don't know how to interact. I've had such traumatic attachment with you human mob before. I'm just doing the best I can to survive.
Yeah. And a good way for like punishment. I don't really believe in punishment as such because I think positive reinforcement is the best way to go with dogs. But he gets really bad FOMO. So the easiest way for him to understand he's done something wrong is just to put him in another room away from you. And then he's like, what do you mean?
You know what
do you mean?
Gemma uses the exact same approach with me. Exactly the same.
I was going to say.
She literally does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, she walks in and I'm in the corner sucking my thumb, rocking back and forth. She says, "You can come out now. Just stop being a douchebag." And
and that was always like if you're being, not necessarily if you're being bad, but if you're in those heightened states for Beau, it was even just a good way to get him away from the situation that was triggering him.
Yeah,
for his own safety and yours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the best things that he's actually learned since being with us is that if he is feeling overwhelmed, he can literally just take himself off to another room.
Yeah.
Right.
And like we get together with Owen's family quite often. There's multiple other dogs running around, and he'll just happily go to a different room.
I need my quiet time now.
Yeah. And he'll just lie down and be happy.
What kept you going through that period of 6 months roughly of having to come home because friends are locked in the bathroom, having standoffs, having to restrain or grab your dog, having to collaborate and compromise as a couple on your different approaches? It sounds like a lot of people would have gone, this is too much for us. What kept you going?
Honestly, initially we had a lot of support from Gower and Eve. There was a couple of phone calls I had with both Tony and Ellen, and I was like, I just don't know what I'm doing here. Not that I don't know what I'm doing, I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. And a lot of those conversations with Eve, and Eve was so supportive and just keep doing what you're doing. You actually are seeing changes. And that was the other thing that really kept us going was we could see changes.
Right.
Small incremental changes, but they were still happening.
And what was like a change that you one of those things that you could hang on to or to.
He would
as
get
a
on
measure.
the couch with us,
Yeah,
and
and
not
not
and not freak out. He
Right.
would.
He would be
was-
very uneasy about it, but he
Yeah.
would do it, and he would
Yeah.
lay down.
Yeah.
I remember
we-
I saw one
Oh.
of the first photos. I think he was on the couch with you
Yeah.
on a blanket, or you were covered in a blanket, or he
Oh,
was,
yeah.
and he
Yes,
got up on.
Yeah, he was like lying across Owen's
yeah,
chest.
Yeah.
and that was just like,
Yeah.
holy crap. And
Yeah.
One of the things that we decided we were going to work on first and foremost was the bed space. And we were like, no, I've got nieces and nephews. There's a lot of kids around sometimes. I wanted him to feel comfortable enough in his resources that he wasn't going to continuously guard them. So we worked really hard on him in his bed and touching him
Yep.
when he was in his bed. And yeah, that was another progress thing we saw was we could actually pat him when he was lying down in his bed and just like small things like that. When we first got him, he bonded quite quickly with me, which I think is because I'm a female and Owen's a tall man.
Scary.
With a deep voice.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
he's a very
scary.
scary man. And so like another incremental change that we saw was he would actually leave to go on walks with Owen by himself because he
Right.
wouldn't move past the litter box without
Right.
me. He would just like
Yeah.
flat out refuse.
Yeah, I couldn't walk
And
him.
Owen
for a
couldn't
long
even
time.
move him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, once again, from your letter, I love playing rough with Bunny. We have what's called wrestling, and she knows the word now. I'll
Oh,
just
yeah.
say, do you want to cuddle? And she wants to cuddle, she'll flop. If I say, you want to wrestle, she'll get up. And she bites my ears. I was really heartened to hear that Beau actually will wrestle you, play rough.
Yeah. I think that's an important part. I think that's training. I think wrestling with your dog is a part of training.
100%.
Because if they never learn how
100%.
to play softly, they never will.
Yeah.
And they'll always hurt people when
Yeah.
they get too rough.
And have you noticed that when they, but I don't know if Beau does this, at Bunny, she'll bite my ears, she nibbles them.
But
Yeah.
doesn't nibble ears necessarily, but he
No.
does like a nibble.
Yeah.
He loves
Yeah,
a nibble, just a
yeah.
little like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
front teeth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's, as you said, it really sets the ground of safety.
Yeah.
I've got this dog with giant, really good teeth, Bunny, who could rip my jugular out, and she's just allowing me to win. This creature that could
Yeah.
kill me in a second is going, "Oh, I'll let you win, Dad."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really important part. I think a lot of people don't put enough weight on that.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think
pushing those boundaries also, sometimes we're going to like do something wrong, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
maybe the dad's job is a little bit of roughhousing. Our
Yeah, I
job
think
is
so.
to
And
just.
And what about those single parents?
You have to be mummy and daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a tough job.
Extra work.
Tough juggle. Yeah, Beau will not roughhouse with me,
Yeah.
no matter how hard I try.
Right, because it's not
Yes.
your job.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not. And then Owen gets home from work and he's like, let's go.
Brilliant.
But that's
the
great
best.
that you've given him the freedom
Yeah.
to make those choices as well.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
now he feels confident enough to do that.
And confident enough in the context of having a traumatic background with tall white men with deep voices. That's an extra level of
Yeah.
safety you've created.
Yeah. So if you think Owen's tall, Owen's father is
Yeah.
far taller
Yeah.
Much taller than me.
and very broad.
And how's he
Big
going with?
man.
Oh, he loves
him.
Right.
Aw.
Yeah.
Loves him.
So you've done so much to.
He was quite reserved to start with, but yeah, he'll go
Follows
in
him all the time.
follows him around. He'll probably go in for a little rough house every now and again as well with
Mm.
Owen's dad. It's been so incredible
And that's
watching all that progress.
That's a testament to the work you've put in. Once
you.
again, I resonate so strongly, Mel, you'd know this, when I hear stories about the really troublesome greyhounds, because I work with really troublesome kids. And it's hard work to not respond just to the behaviour, but to respond to the need that behaviour represents. So I really admire people who take the time and the energy that it takes to walk through that process, because it's a traumatic process for the person who's trying to support that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was hard.
Yeah.
It was very hard, but I don't know. When I look back on it now, I'm like, was it really that bad? Because he's so normal now.
Yeah.
Like it's a completely different dog, and I'm
Right.
like, was it really that bad?
Owen's sitting there going, yes, it was. So what are some of your favourite things about Beau now that you've...
I love how much personality he has. He's so bloody cheeky, and it's like he knows how to communicate with you as well. And I also just love that he's the biggest cuddle bug. He wants to cuddle.
Beau has a raised bed right next to Mummy and Daddy's bed, all
Right
right?
next to mum.
And he sleeps with a paw touching Mummy.
Yeah.
on a raised bed. Now, there's a thin line between supporting an animal and enabling some kind of...
I know I've enabled him and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
That was actually quite the process. So when we first got him, he slept in the lounge with a closed door. Like he wanted to be alone.
In the far corner.
Oh, wow.
And then
if you walked in that room, he would bark at you.
Wow.
He'd tell you off.
What a difference.
Yeah. And then it got to the point where he moved into our room because he just kept sleeping on the floor in our room. So we're like, okay, cool. So he moved to the far corner of our room.
It was a long game. He was playing the long game.
Yeah.
And then eventually got to the point where we couldn't keep him out of our bed.
Yeah.
So, and our bed's not very big. It's
And
not
it
big
was-
enough for 2 long boys.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of whinging and waking us up.
Yeah. So we ended up cutting the legs off a very small dining table. And now he sleeps on a raised bed next to me.
Of course. Greyhound owners are freaking weird, mate. I was, honestly, they really
I
are.
will do anything to get a peaceful night's sleep. You don't
Absolutely.
understand.
I'll walk in and Bunny and Beau are really comfy. I'll just go, I don't want to wake them up. I'll sleep on the couch. I'll literally sleep on the couch rather than get them off the bed.
Yeah.
It's a bit cultish, isn't it? We're a bit...
It is a little bit, but I'm so here for it.
Absolutely.
I'm so here for it.
When you think about the time that we have to spend with them, it's not all that long necessarily.
No,
So-
especially when you're getting older greyhounds that are
Yeah.
they've already spent a lot of their years without you.
Exactly.
I think about it and it makes me cry.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask just a couple of more things, if that's all right. Just, I think you mentioned, Hope, that, or it might have been you, Owen, that Beau taught you in some way. What has Beau taught you?
It's such a hard thing to quantify into words.
I got one. I reckon probably the one thing he taught me is how important it is to expose yourself to things that make you uncomfortable
Oh, wow.
and do it in a way that's safe and with people that you trust. I
Wow.
think that's probably the one thing that helped us get him to where he is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Look at Owen go just quantifying things into words. Yeah.
I don't think there's any words. I got words. And
I think Beau's taught me how strong love can be. Like, what an amazing feat just loving something can bring about, what change can happen.
Yep.
And also just being super fucking patient.
Yep.
Yes.
So patient.
Isn't love and patience go hand in hand?
Yes.
Very
Oh,
much.
100%.
Don't
Very
you think? Because I don't think you really discover. We're getting off greyhounds a bit here, but I think it counts. You don't actually discover true love unless you've got the patience to walk through the pain of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And empathy is another thing. I think that just somehow being able to empathise with what they've been through.
Yeah, that experience,
Yeah.
and to understand that the behaviour represents something.
Yes, isn't intrinsic of who that animal is or that being is.
I'm not telling
gone
you to.
through.
I'm not telling you to fuck off. I'm telling you I'm so scared of
Yeah.
what closeness means
that I can't bear
that
it.
you've got to wait with me a while so that
Mhm.
I can feel safe with closeness.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you guys did. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about the journey with Beau, or words of wisdom for people who might want to step into the greyhound arena?
No words of wisdom as such for me, but I would just highly encourage people out there that are dog savvy and have experience with dogs to take a chance on the dogs that have issues, for want of a better word, that are slightly traumatized. And, the longer they're kept in the racing industry, the worse they come out. And I don't know, it's something that really resonates with me, is like, those are the dogs that need our love.
Damn
It's
straight.
like the
Yeah.
people that know what they're doing with dogs. There are plenty of easy greyhounds out there and beautiful, like you said, happy-go-lucky from the get-go.
Yeah,
With your Beau.
yeah.
But just take that chance.
Yeah.
Beau's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And he is the most beautiful boy. And I actually can't imagine my life without him at all. And I think, I just like to encourage anyone who's out there that is dog savvy, that is thinking about getting a greyhound, is maybe take a chance on the ones that need a little bit of extra love.
That's such a beautiful message, and I think it's going to dovetail really well with our guest for next week, because there's two sort of areas that people might avoid, which is the troublesome hounds and maybe the older hounds. Everyone wants a nice happy puppy,
Yeah.
but they're fine in a sense. I know greyhound's fine, but in terms of adoptions, they're looking pretty good. It's the ones that really need big energy and support, and it's the ones that are a bit older that might fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
So kudos.
I can't even imagine where Beau would end up if someone hadn't have taken a chance on him, whether it was us or someone else. He was a troubled dog, and he is now the happiest, most normal dog ever, who like loves other dogs, loves other humans. Like, he just has so much love to give.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have had that with, not to toot my own horn, but without us. So like, someone needs to do that for other dogs.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. Sometimes I love these podcasts just so I get to get an inside look at people's vulnerabilities and their courage. And yeah, it's lovely. You guys have been lovely. Thank you
you
so
for having
much.
us.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been great.
And for loving Beau like you do. It's awesome.
You don't even thank me for that.
Yeah.
I'll happily do that.
Hallelujah. Honestly, hallelujah. And well done. We're going to have to wrap it up there, Mel. What a lovely,
I know.
you know,
We're lucky, eh?
just the people we get to talk to, honestly.
Absolutely.
A big, huge thank you to Owen and Hope for such a lovely interview today. As Christmas comes up, I just wanted to point out that we talked about loss, and Christmas is a time that's difficult for some people because it reminds them of members that aren't here. I don't know how many dogs we've lost this year, how many beautiful creatures on the track so far in this calendar year, Mel, but it must be...
We're at 50.
50 dogs this calendar year.
Yep.
Jesus
that have either
Christ.
died on track or been taken off track and died
yeah.
within 10 days of
So they didn't
that
make
injury.
They didn't make it to Christmas.
No.
We wrote a little song last year, and we're going to finish this episode, and it's dedicated to all the hounds, because the best Christmas present for these guys would be that we stop using them as commodities and we start protecting them instead of exploiting them. And the best way to do that is to end this outdated, inhumane, unsustainable sport, because the goal is that one day we will release the hounds. Happy Christmas, everyone. That time of the year again, when families gather around. But let's lend an ear, my friends, to those who don't make a sound. 'Cause Christmas hasn't come for them yet, our long-nosed friends. And I reckon I could make a bet that we're far from the end. So as you unwrap your presents from under the tree, there's one gift that they'll be missing, the chance to run free. Release the hounds. Will you just wait and see? We're gonna release the hounds. Then we'll watch them run free. Happy Christmas.